Okay. So we finished the Gemara last week was about the nature of Egla Arufa and the yesod of the Medida and what the purpose of the Medida is. So now we go weiter in the Gemara, really an independent Gemara, but kind of following after the last Gemara. That again, just to reorient ourselves, the Gemara said that there's a machlokes Tanoim, Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon, whether or not the Gemara on Yudalad and Aleph, the Gemara says whether or not you need 3 dayanim for Egla Arufa, or you need 5 dayanim for Egla Arufa. Everyone agrees that you need miyuchadim shebeshoftecha, that you need to have the highest court, the Sanhedrin Gedola. But the machlokes is based on the psukim in the parsha of Egla Arufa, the last Gemara on Yudalad and Aleph, Tanar Rabbanan, v'yatzu zekenecha v'shoftecha, zekenecha shnayim, shoftecha shnayim, v'im beis din shakom, mosivin olenecha, that's 5. Harikan chamisha divrei Rabbi Yehuda, Shimon Omer zekenecha shnayim, v'im beis din shakel, mosivin olenecha, that's 3. But everyone agrees that they have to be members of the Sanhedrin Gedola, but not the entire Sanhedrin Gedola. That was the Medida of Egla Arufa. The Gemara says, Masnisin Deloiki Adtana, the Gemara on the first line of Yudalad and Beis. Our Mishnah is not like another Tana. Who is this mysterious other Tana? Tisanya, because the Brisa says, Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov Omer, V'yatzu zekenecha v'shoftecha, zekenecha zu Sanhedrin, v'shoftecha ze melech v'kohen gadol. Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov held that it wasn't sufficient to just go out to the Egla Arufa, to the dead person that was found dead in the middle of the street, and we have to now decipher which city is closest that they are going to bring the kapara of the Egla Arufa for this person that was murdered, and then we don't know who to punish. And as we said last week, one of the purposes was that we should now find out about who was the culprit and who was the criminal, and we should punish them. So the Gemara says that Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov says that you don't suffice with Sanhedrin, but you also need Melech v'Kohen Gadol. How do you know? Melech dichsiv Melech b'mishpat yamid aretz, Kohen Gadol dichsiv ubasa ela koyanim halaviyim v'ela shofet. So that since both by Melech and by Kohen Gadol, the Torah references that each of these individuals are somehow Shoftim. The Torah says Melech b'mishpat yamid aretz. A Melech represents Mishpat, and what also uvasala koyanim ve'ela shoifet. So the koyin also is connected to the shoifet. So therefore, what when the Gemara said v'yatza, when the Torah says v'yatza zechenecha v'shoftecha, shoftecha doesn't only mean what? Judges. It means koyin gadol, and it means the Melech. So the Maharsha asks on this Gemara, okay, so how do you know that you need miyuchadim shebeshoftecha? How do you know that you need the highest court, which is learned out from the drasha of miyuchadim shebeshoftecha? So the Maharsha says we learn all 3 things. It's all anything that connects to the word shofet, which is the Sanhedrin Gedola, Ayin Aleph, and the Melech and the Kohen. They all have to be going out. The Kohen Gadol, they all have to go out for the Medida of the Egla Arufa. Good. So why is our Mishnah like Haitana? What's the Gemara saying? Our Mishnah is not like Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. How does the Gemara know our Mishnah is not like Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov? Oh, because the Mishnah just said 3 or 5. The Mishnah never said anything about a Melech HaKohen Gadol. Comes along Taisvis, and Taisvis asks a kasha, top Taisvis, Tema. Imishum d'masnisin leichashiva Melech HaKohen Gadol. What, you're going to be medaik that it's not Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov from the fact that the Mishnah didn't list the necessity to bring not only the Dayanim but the Melech and the Kohen Gadol? As Taisus, Hachanami Ashkechan Gabi Ein Moisifin Ala'ir. There's another case in the Mishnah that also requires not only Dayanim, and in addition to the Dayanim, to add on, let's say we want to expand Yerushalayim, we want to expand the city. So there's a process, a whole Gemara in Shavuos that tells you have to bring certain korbanos, and you need Dayanim, and you need the Melech and the Nasi and the Urim V'Tumim, Ubeis Sodos and 2 Korbanos, V'Shir, and they have to sing. Kedistan B'Perek Beis D'Shvus, as the Gemara says on Daf Yudalad and Aleph. So ask Tosas, so what's Tosas' question? The Mishnah never said anything about all those requirements. Let's turn back to the Mishnah. What did the Mishnah say? Mishnah says, Ein moisifin ala ir v'ala azaros. You see where the... oh, great. Ein moisifin ala ir v'ala azaros. I don't remember where it was. We got stuck on a Shabbos. And we couldn't, it took us a long time to figure out where the place was. And we all said, where's Abe? Ein moisifin ala ir v'ala azaros el al pi bezdin shel shivim ve'echad. And what? It just says the number dayanim. What about the melech? What about the urim v'tumim? What about the karbanos? What about... Why didn't there's no diuk. The Mishnah's not getting involved in all these halachas. So if you're going to be medayik there, be medayik here. So the Tosafos says, I don't understand the whole Gemara. V'chein gabi motziin l'melchemes harashus. Also to decide whether or not we're going to go to war. In a situation where it's not a melchemes mitzvah. It's not specific nations. It's not to conquer Eretz Yisrael. It's a melchemes rashus. Debaninon melech u'meshuach melchama. You need a king and you need the person who speaks, the Meshuach, the Kol Meshuach Melchama, that speaks before they go to battle. So why isn't that listed in our Mishnah? It just says, you need the Sanhedrin. Says Taisus, the answer is as follows. By all those other cases, you're right. All it said was the 71 Dayanim. And it didn't list the other details. Says Taisus, but this one, since it's 3 or 5, so if they needed a melech and a kohen gadol, it should have said it. Well, I don't even understand what Taisus said. Taisus said, I don't understand. You're being medayik that Reb Elazar ben Yaakov doesn't hold like our Mishnah, because Reb Elazar ben Yaakov holds, you also, in addition to the Sanhedrin, needs what? Needs melech, needs kohen gadol. Ask Taisus, what do you mean? There are other statements in the Mishnah is that we all know from other Gemaras that we need other requirements, and that's also not listed in the Mishnah. So maybe Reb Elazar ben Yaakov could be the Tana of our Mishnah. Says Taisus, no, because there it's the full Sanhedrin. Here it's 3 Dayanim, 5 Dayanim from the Sanhedrin G'dayla. So what do you answer? But Lamaisi, you missed some of the requirements.
Is the full Sanhedrin like code for more?
So I don't know if the full Sanhedrin's code for more.
I mean, yeah, if you need the full Sanhedrin, then obviously you need the Melech, the Kohen Gadol. I mean, it must be such a...
So I want to go the opposite direction. Very similar to what you're saying, but in the opposite route. There's a distinction, like Mark's saying, that there's something that the Mishnah is signaling when it says the full Sanhedrin. The full Sanhedrin represents a certain godless, a certain type of Bezdin. And that's very fitting for the Mishnah of Masechah Sanhedrin. We spent a lot of time to the Bezdin of Gimel. We spent a lot of time the Bezdin of Chav Gimel. And now the Gemara gets to this new Maila of what? The Sanhedrin of Ayin Aleph. Good. So now that's what it's discussing. You want to know the details of how to add on to the city of Yerushalayim, how to expand the Kedusha of Yerushalayim to allow more areas. That's Nafkamina's La'alacha. Rabosa, you're going to have to know when we want to expand Yerushalayim because we want to have more areas that you're allowed to eat Kodshim Kalim, that you're allowed to eat the Karban Pesach, so we have to do this. We have to. You don't need a construction team. You need some karbonos and you need some rabbanim. You need some urim v'tumim. So that's what you need in order to expand, in order to develop the real estate. That's what we need in the times. But that's not relevant to Masechah Sanhedrin. That's not relevant for the Mishnah. Abrzak the Taisus. This is what L'chora Tosfos is saying. But now there's another dimension. There's another halacha of the Sanhedrin. And Rabbi said, we've mentioned this Reb Chaim a few times. There's an example of sometimes that you can be on the Sanhedrin team, but not acting as a Sanhedrin. What do I mean? I mentioned last week that Reb Chaim suggested, based on our Gemara, that the fact that you can have halachos of the shoftecha, the miyuchadim shebashoftecha, people that are on the Sanhedrin Gedola that are only going to be what? 3 dayanim or 5 dayanim. For Medidas Elegala Arufa, you see that the Sanhedrin Gedola is not just formalized to be a bezdin, but rather it's a license. You have an identification card. You're a member in the Minoi Hagavra. As you as a person, as a stature, you now are on the team. And even if the team is not collected, you now have a certain koyach. What koyach? Medidas, Egla Arufa. Even when the Ayin Aleph, the 71 Dayanim are not here, I still have a koyach. So Taisus is saying that's the pshat. Bishlama, if you want to tell me halachos that are what? All of the 71 Dayanim. So the Mishnah said the 71 Dayanim, it didn't leave the details. That's for wherever the Gemara is going to discuss those details. Gemara in Shavuos, a Gemara wherever, Gemara in Saita. However, if you're going to tell me what? That they're not acting b'Torah's Bezdin, that now they have a koyach b'Torah's Minui Agavra, that they now could even be with an identification card as 3 Dayanim and as 5 Dayanim. And Rabbi said, remember, why did Reb Chaim come on to this idea? Reb Chaim suggested, not like the Rav suggested that we said many months ago, but Reb Chaim suggested the answer to the Ramban's question on the Rambam of how we could be Mekadesh Chachodesh even in the times of the Amoraim, if what? The Bezdin Agadol already was kicked out of Yerushalayim and they didn't exist in the Lishkas Hagazis way after the Churban, and we know that the Bezdin Agadol ceased to exist 40 years before the Churban HaMikdash. So ask the Ramban and challenges the Ramban against the Rambam. Apparently, it's not a necessity to what? To have the Sanhedrin HaGedolah for Kiddush HaChodesh. Because Kiddush HaChodesh went on for many years after Churban HaMikdash when the Sanhedrin HaGedolah did not exist. Says Reb Chaim, you're right. Maybe you don't need the Sanhedrin Gedolah as Sanhedrin Gedolah. You just needed members that were what? That were carrying that identification. And as long as those people existed, that gave the koach to be Mekadesh HaChodesh for all those generations longer, even though they weren't in the Lishas HaGazis formalized as a Bezdin. So let's just finish the Taisus. So now Taisus is saying, so if you're going to tell me that they're existing independently as 3 or 5, just as a part of the Bezdin HaGadol, so what? So then you see that you're not going b'Torah Sanhedrin, so then you have to list all the halachas. So now you're going above and beyond the halachas of Basidin, and they're not representing a Bezdin, so then you should really list all the other details and Kohen Gadol. Yeah, Abe.
Yeah, the problem is that you're saying, right, you need Sanhedrin by, say, expanding Yerushalayim, you need the Sanhedrin of Ayin Aleph. That's saying that it's not just a case of you need people of the Bezdin, you need the whole Bezdin. So
that's exactly right. So when... No. When it comes to the Azar adding on to the ear, I need the entire Bezdin. And therefore, the Mishnah doesn't list anything else.
In that case, it's a grand masa Bezdin.
Yeah. And that's why it's listed in the Mishnah. And that's why the other details aren't mentioned. We don't have a kasha over there. But once you're going to tell me that now we're listing dinim, that...
Now from the other sources, you do need the Melech and the Kohen.
Avada, you need the Melech, the Kohen Gadol. But I don't have a kasha on the Mishnah. What Taisus asked, why it wasn't mentioned there, because there was the Bezdin, and that was the Maila. Then this Gemara is saying this is Masisin Delaika Reb Lazar ben Yaakov. What do you mean it's Lo? What's the difference between that and Lahosif ala Yoros? The answer is here. It's just B'Torah's Mina Gavra. It's the identification card. It's not B'Torah's Bezdin. Good. Frek the Gemara kasha. Ibailu Reb Lazar ben Yaakov bechada polig or betarta polig. The Gemara has a suffix. I want to analyze Reb Lazar ben Yaakov's opinion. Reb Lazar ben Yaakov is of the opinion that you need a melech and you need a kohen, the kohen gadol, to come out from Medidas Egla Arufa. Is that all he argues about? Or does he also argue about the number of the dayanim as well? Once we're explaining that he's not the Tan of our Mishnah, maybe he disagrees with our Mishnah completely, and the number 3 and the number 5 is also wrong. Namely what? B'melech v'kohen gadol pligi aval b'Sanhedrin ikar Reb Yehuda ikar Reb Shimon. Is it that he just argues that you need an additional melech and a kohen gadol, but for the number of dayanim he agrees to Reb Yehuda that you need 5 or to Reb Shimon that you need 3, and that suffices? O dilma b'Sanhedrin nami polig the Amar Kula Sanhedrin Bo'inon. Or no, maybe Reb Lazar ben Yaakov argues completely, and he says, no, it's not enough to just have the 3 and the 5. but he would need all of Sanhedrin. If we would try to, in Lumdisha terms, with our Hezber that we just explained, what would be the Nekudas HaMachloikes between Rabbi Elazar and Yaakov to need the entire Sanhedrin? So Reb Chaim will say the suffix of the Gemara is perhaps Rabbi Elazar and Yaakov viewed Egla Arufa as not sufficing with the identification card, with a member that just carries that ID, but it now is another function of the entire Bezdin. That's where Rabbi Elazar and Yaakov was coming from. And just like there are certain dinim that they exist, they need the entire Sanhedrin, so too Medidas Egla Arufa needs the entire Sanhedrin. That's the suffix of the Gemara. Amar Rav Yosef Toshma. Rav Yosef says, I'd like to bring a raya. Motzana beis pagi v'himra lehen. There's a halacha of Zakin Mamre, a person in Parsha Shoftim that decides to argue on the Bezdin Agadol in a certain halacha. A halacha the Gemara tells us in the 10th parak, probably get there in 25 years, that the Gemara says that the Sanhedrin Agadol said a certain psak within the rules of Chiyuvei Kares. And this Rav decided, and it was a Rav, it was a person who was Igiya or Ra, it's a person of stature. It's a Shaila, how, if he has to be a certain age, 40 years old, or he needs to have smicha, it's a machlokes between the Rambam and Rashi. But he argues on the Bezdin Agadol. So he's Chayev Misa. He's going to be killed with Chenek. So what happens if he doesn't argue with them in the Lishkas Hagazis in the Beis HaMikdash? He rather finds them outside, in Yerushalayim. A Beis Pagi. Rashi says, Beis Pagi, the second Rashi, Makom lefnim michomas ha'ir v'nidon k'Yerushalayim l'chol dvarav. It happened to be an area that was inside the walls of the city, and he was arguing with them in Yerushalayim. Yachol tehei hamra'a so hamra'a. I would have thought that maybe his Zakin Mamre, his argument actually works and you can kill him. Talmud Loimar, the pasuk says, "V'kamta v'olisa el makom." It has to be in the makom, adi. Shemelamid sha'makom goreim. Tosfos here says, adi, you should find this Tosfos very interesting. Melamid sha'makom goreim, which means what? That you need to argue on the Bezdin Agadol where specifically in the Lishkas Hagazis on the Harabais. Even though Tosfos says, when it comes to the next Tosfos, Afal gav de meiser sheni ksiv nami makom, u'meiser sheni necho b'chol ha'ir. So Tosfos is saying this is inconsistent. The Torah says makom a lot of times, and meiser sheni is eaten all in Yerushalayim. So how come makom over here means Yerushalayim and makom over here means the Beis HaMikdash? Tosfos doesn't give a hezber. Maybe we can give a hezber based on what Adi said over the summer. He gave a whole shir on this idea that makom means different things in different areas of the Torah. It's exactly what Tosfos is highlighting. When it comes to the Bezdin Agadol, makom clearly meant Beis HaMikdash, right? When it comes to Meiser Sheni, Tosfos says makom is not necessarily the Beis HaMikdash, and it actually means Yerushalayim. Fine. So the Gemara says, "V'kamta olav elisa el makom." Melamid sha'makom goyrim. You see that what? It's not enough just to argue with the Bezdin Agadol. You actually need to argue the Bezdin Agadol in the area that is significant, and that's in the Lishkas Hagazis. So the Gemara asks, wait 1 second. This guy's bumping in the shuk in the middle of Yerushalayim, right? In the middle of the Machne Yehuda, and he's bumping into the entire Sanhedrin. Wow, that's quite a trip. Unbelievable. And what? Chutzpah. He decides to argue with them in the middle of Machne Yehuda. So Gemara says, what? Dinafa kamo. How many of these dayanim were just taking the day off? What's going on? He just bumped into the entire Sanhedrin Gedolah. How is this possible? So if you say, Ilay mimikzasan, if you say, no, he only bumped into some of the dayanim, so then what? Dil mahanach di'ika gavai kamai kavase. Of course he's not going to be chayiv misa. Why? Because the other guys, the other dayanim that are what? That are not here, maybe they hold like his shita, like his machlokes. So of course he's not going to be, I need a pasuk to tell me I'm makom goyrim. He's not chayiv because there might be dayanim that agree with him.
He needs a majority to.
We'll get to that. That's exactly what we're going to talk about. Good. Elepshita dinofik kulhu. Rather, it must be that all of the dayanim were actually there and he argued with all of them. Right? And therefore, the pasuk has to tell you, even though he argued with the entire Sanhedrin Gedolah, what? Hamakum Goyim is not chayiv. So that's the pasuk. So Gemara says, Lamai. Well, suddenly, why is all the Sanhedrin picking up and going? Every single dayan, all 71 are leaving? If you say that there was a sale in Machana Yehuda, and they wanted to just get as many, arbis as possible before Shabbos, mi motzu nafki, it's not so simple. They're not allowed to all leave. V'hoksiv sararcha agan hasoyer al yachser hamezeg. You cannot leave too many dayanim. What's the lashon? How do you read it? Yeah, what is the pasuk? Sararech agan hasoyer. No, shararech agan hasoyer asahar el yachser hamezeg bitnei charim eschitim suga b'shoshana. Pasuk and shir hashirim. So the Gemara, the pasuk in Shir Hashirim darshans that there always has to be a certain number of dayanim in the Sanhedrin that are still, on duty. They're still like in the corps, in the ambulance corps. They're still there just in case. So Taisus here has a discussion. How many dayanim is that? How do you figure out from that word al yachzer amezeg? He thinks that it's dependent on the ratio of diluting wine. Is it 1/3? Is it a quarter? How many dayanim do you have to leave? Is it 23 dayanim? So the Gemara asks, it must be that they only left. Why? Because they were obligated to. What? Dvar mitzvah? Hechidami. Lavlo medidas egla. Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakovi. Elamai, you see, it was Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov Shita. And what? They have to go for Egla Rufa. The Amar Kula Sanhedrin being. And now we were posted our suffix that Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov doesn't only argue about what? About Melech and about the Kohen Gadol. He also argues about the 3 and the 5 that it needs 71 dayanim. Amar Abaye like going to Yatzal Haisif Alayir Valazaris. No, there's no raya. Maybe Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov doesn't argue, and it's talking about that they needed to go out to be Maisif to expand Yerushalayim where you need all 71 dayanim. Because it's not in Mosifan Alayir Valazaris, like the Mishnah says that you can't add on to the city and to the Azara of the Beis HaMikdash Elo Bebelzdin Shel Shivim Ve'echad. Tanya Kavasid Rav Yosef, the Gemara says, yeah, but there's a brisa that says the exact original answer. Matzon habeis pagi vehimra aleyan, kegoin sheyatzel medidas egla, ulohaisef alair v'alazaras yachosh te'amrasa amra tamaloimer v'kamta v'alisa l'amakom melamid she'amakom goyreim. So you see that even by Egla Arufa, Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov actually held that was one of the examples that all of the Sanhedrin Gedolah leaves, and that would be a Dvar Mitzvah. And he argued not only on our Mishnah for Melech and for Kohen Gadol, but he argued even on our Mishnah about the number of Dayanim that are necessary for Egla Arufa.
Doesn't this throw out Tosfos?
Why?
Because we made the distinction of the carrying the license or the entire Sanhedrin. And here we just developed that it's the entire Sanhedrin.
Again, Tosfos asks, Maslisin the Loki Aitana, the Gemara was saying because it left out Melech and Kohen Gadol. So now what?
So now you just proved
That he needs 71.
he needs 71.
So again, Tosfos was before the Gemara had the suffix. The Gemara says, our Mishnah is not like Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. How do you know our Mishnah is not like Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov? Says the Gemara, answers the question, because there's no mentioning of Melech and Kohen Gadol. So Tosfos asks on that, what do you mean? There's no mentioning in many areas. So Tosfos says, on that Havamina, Tosfos says, no, there was when there was a 71. Here is when it's 3 or 5. You're right. It's true. At the end of the day, Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, he happens to hold 71. But at that stage of the Gemara didn't know necessarily that Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov argued, and the Gemara wasn't sure. So yeah, it's a good point. But I think the Tosfos still holds true in that shlav of the Gemara. So now let's see the lashon of the Rabbeinu Yaina and the Yad Ramah is something very similar. So what happened? This guy is bubbing into the Sanhedrin Gedolah, and he is arguing with them, and the Gemara wants to know, is he chayev al tazakein mamre? So how many, what Abe mentioned before, how many dayanim does a zakein mamre have to argue with in order to be chayev chenek, in order to argue? So the Meiri writes beferish later on in Sanhedrin that if he doesn't argue with all dayanim, he is not chayev. But apparently that's not the opinion of all Rishonim. Let's see the Rabbeinu Yoina. Perish va'afilu nafik rubayhu.
Where's that?
The Gemara, the second, the Dibra Maschel, the nafik kami ilema. You see? So, says the Rabbeinu Yoina, even if majority of the Dayanim left to do whatever they had to do, Ikala Meimar, you could still say Dahanach de Gavoy Kavasei Svirlu. You could still argue that those that are inside that didn't come out hold like the Zakin Mamre, and therefore he's not chayav. Diafal Gav, says the Rabbeinu Yoina, and clarifies what the halachos are for Zakin Mamre. Diafal Gav di'ihava kulu belishkas hagazis ve'iflagu Sanhedrin azlinan basaruba, like Abe said. And even though it's true that if everyone was in the Lishkas Hagazis, and you would argue with the Bezdin Hagadol in the Lishkas Hagazis, we would be mechayiv you for arguing with the Sanhedrin Gedolah, even if you're only arguing with what? With Rov, with majority. Apparently the Rabbeinu Yoina held against the Meiri that it's sufficient to argue with Rov. V'hasa mishum de'isel meimar achrei rabim. And that is why, because we have the halach, we have the pasuk of Achrei Rabbim Lahatos, we follow the majority. V'Rabbim o Ashkechon de time de Tuvelias v'Mishara Aval Kashein Kulam bebas Achas Ikol Meimar Hanach de Gavoy Kavasei Svirelu. But if you only bump into Rov, you could say, what do you mean? Maybe the other guys that are inside hold like me, so therefore the Zakin Mamre is potter. Even though, again, we're meeting the credentials that we usually would need if we would be in the Lishkas Hagazis. I'm arguing with majority, and the majority is here, says the Rabbeinu Yoina. But since there is a minority that's in the Bezdin that might hold like me, that's going to now make me not a Zakin Mamre. So ask the Rabbeinu Yoina, and maybe if they would rationalize and they would hear the other time, they would agree. Umidelay mukila keshehimra al oisan shebechutz v'chazer v'himra al oisan shebifnim. So ask the Rabbeinu Yoina a very simple question. Okay, why don't we set up the case as follows? You met the majority, you argued with the majority, and this Baal Gaiva, this arguer, it was not sufficient to him to convince and to argue with what? The majority of the Sanhedrin Gedolah. He had to go after everyone. And he went into Lishkas Hagazis, and he met the minority, and he was Chayzer v'Himra. So now what? So then maybe what? Maybe that should be sufficient.
Yeah, the majority's still outside.
The majority's outside.
Yeah,
Right, no. So we're before the pasuk. The Gemara doesn't have a pasuk yet. The Gemara says, what's the case? So the Rabbeinu Yoina says that, why didn't the Gemara just answer that the case is where he argued with everyone, just they argued with everyone separately.
He's arguing on a psak, he's not arguing on numbers.
No, but the problem is he needs to argue on Rov. So,
But he has to argue against a unanimous opinion, no?
So the Rabbeinu Yoina holds no, he has to argue on Rov.
Numbers,
So Rabbeinu Yoina says, so why don't you say that he bumped into Rov? So Rabbeinu Yoina says, no, it has to be that they're all together. So, because he has to argue against all of them. Even though if they would be in the Beis HaMikdash, if he would argue on the majority, that would be sufficient against the Meiri. So now, what happens? Ask the Rabbeinu Yoina. So let's set a case that he argues on the Rov, and then he goes to argue again with what? With the minority.
He's changing his mind, or he's not changing his mind.
Who?
If he's arguing, say, the Zakin Mamre holds, I hold this. So the Rov on the outside held something else.
Right.
And he says, I hold this. If he goes to the minority now,
That we don't know their opinions yet. I just argued with them.
Just split.
The minority in numbers, not the minority in opinion.
Yeah.
That's what the Rabbeinu Yoina was saying. We don't know if they disagree or not disagree. But again, it's sufficient to argue with Rov. So you already have the numbers that you need. Just what? There's a technicality that I didn't present the argument to the other people that are inside. So says the Rabbeinu Yoina, just to set up a situation that you went to both of them.
that's not Zakin Mamre.
Why not?
Zakin Mamre is arguing on the psak that's coming out of the Sanhedrin Gedolah.
That's exactly what he's doing. Sanhedrin
He's
Gedolah.
arguing with them. He said, I disagree with you, the majority. I disagree with you, 40. I disagree with you, 30. That doesn't make him a Zakin Mamre. That's
Why not?
the same psak.
Is he not arguing with the Sanhedrin Gedolah? It's the same psak.
It's the same psak.
Same psak. We're just trying to figure out numbers. So then says the Rabbeinu Yoina, Midilo mukul k'shemra al oisin shebechutz v'chazer v'himra al oisin shebefnim, Shma mino she'ein amra so amra ad sheyu kulam b'mokom echad. There's no din zokin mamre unless they're all together. So if you want to tell me like the Meiri that the reason is because a zokin mamre is only chal if he argues with a unanimous opinion, that he has to argue with everyone, and as long as there's someone that holds like him, he's felt in the zokin mamre, he's not a full zokin mamre, I can understand this, Rabbi Yonah. But that's not what the Rabbi Yonah says. The Rabbi Yonah is not backing down that what? That rove is sufficient. All he has, if the minority dissents and the minority argues and the minority say, we do agree with him, guess what the Rabbi Yonah says? He's chayiv chenek. He's chayiv chenek because he went against the majority of the Sanhedrin Gedolah. So then Rabbeinu Shalom, I don't understand. So why do they have to be sitting all together? Why do they have to be all at once? I didn't understand the Rabbeinu Yonah. Why do they have to be all together? What's the halacha? You have the numbers. You argued with the rove. You even presented it to the minority afterwards. So now follow rove and now make him a zaken mamre. So I wanted to suggest the following chiddush, which is a chiddush that applies in many different areas of halacha. And it's an idea that the Dvar Avram, who was the Kovner Rav, Dvar Avram was the Rav in Kovna in World War II. He was the Paisek Hador. He was the Rameif Feinstein of that generation. And unfortunately, he was killed by the Nazis. So the Dvar Avram asked the following question. We have a concept in halacha of Rubo Ke'chulo. If you have majority, it's as if you have everything. Rubo Ke'chulo. So if that's the case, why don't I say that even if I have the majority of a measurement, so now you have a sufficient amount. The halacha is, I have to drink a revius. So now let me drink rove a revius. I have to eat a kazayas, let me eat rove of a kazayas. Rubo Ke'chulo. So it's as if, through rove, it's as if I have the whole thing. So I don't understand. So now say Rubo Ke'chulo, even on the shear that I need. So says the Dvar Avram as follows. He brings a Rashi in Yevamos. Where should we start? Dihine ha milsa de pshita. It's on the first column, the bottom paragraph. It starts ha milsa de pshita, 5 lines down. Ha milsa de pshita hi da halacha de Rubo Ke'chulo. Halacha of Rubo Ke'chulo lo nemer ella al rov kol hadavar velo al rov chelek mimenu. You only say Rubo Ke'chulo on an entire entity. But if you don't have the entire entity, then you don't say Rubo Ke'chulo. Or as Rav Soloveitchik or Rav Shechter coined the term, as the rove of a unit. You have a unit, and then you want to have rove of that unit. Now we can say rove of that unit now suffices as if you have the whole unit. But what? But if I only have rove of a chelek, of partial, then you don't say Rubo Ke'chulo on everything. So now I could just have rove of a kazayas, and now I didn't even have a kazayas. L'dugma bahad shira beged le'inyan tumah. The halacha is if that I take a beged into a house that is tameh, even a beged of tzaras, that's gimel al gimel, that's 3 by 3. So the halacha is that what? It's metame the house. Damrina biyavamis daf kuf kumel mabeis matlis. You have a little handkerchief. Sheyesh bo gimel al gimel. That's the shear of a beged. Afal pi she'ein bo kazayis kevin shenichnas rubo lebayis tahor tamaso. Since majority of that 3 by 3 beged went into the house, it was metame the entire house. V'humishum de Rubo Ke'chulo ayin perish Rashi sham. Hari de k'shenichnas mehach matlis shtayim al shalosh dai letame. When 2 out of 3 rove of the beged went into the house, that now was metame the entire house. V'ilu hoya beged gadol v'nichnas mimenu shtayim al shalosh. But let's say the beged, the garment was huge. And now I have rove of the shear of tumah, which is the same amount, 2 out of 3, instead of rove of the entire beged. Afal pishu rove hashir, even though if it was on its own, if it was independent, that would be the amount that would be matam of the house. Now that it's what? it's now just rove of a measurement, but it's not of a rove of the entire beged, of the entire unit. Hatzarach lebeged linyan tuma abayis tar below amrinan kaven shenichnas rove gimel al gimel rubo ke'chulo v'ave kenichnas kol gimel al gimel. We don't say that now, since majority of that measurement went in, now it's as if the whole thing went in, and that's matam of the house. So you would have two different examples of different shiurim of begadim. That if rove went in, if it was a small beged, then you say rubo ke'chulo, and it's matam of the house. But if rove went in, only two etzbos went in a situation where what? Where it was a larger beged, then suddenly the same exact shear is not matam. Why? Because it's not rove of the entire unit. And rubo ke'chulo only applies when you have the entire unit. And that's the reason why when I drink rove kos of a kiddush cup, since I have an entire kos there, now I can say rubo ke'chulo. But if what? I drink rove of a shear, or rove of a kazayis, that's not the entire unit, that's not going to apply rubo ke'chulo. Has to be rove of some other entity, some other concept. So im kain, I think that's exactly what Rabbeinu Yonah is highlighting by us. It's true, the numbers, and in the numbers game, it's sufficient for the Zakin Mamre to argue with rove. But Nira Lefianei Azdaiti, the Rabbeinu Yonah is saying, but in order for what? For the rove to kick in and to say rubo ke'chulo, it has to be a unit. When is it a unit? It's a unit when the Bezdin HaGadol is sitting together, when they're babas achas. And Rabbi say, let's remember, the source of rubo ke'chulo, Reb Chaim tells us, is learnt out from Bezdin. Because you convert the miyut hadayonim that are the dissenting opinion, and now you say it's as if you have the full Bezdin HaGadol and that ayin aleph. What allows you to now say rubo ke'chulo? When they exist as a unified entity. When they exist as one chefza of a Sanhedrin Agdala. Exactly like the Dvar Abram suggested. So now we have an example of the source of rubo ke'chulo. And the Rabbeinu Yonah is telling us that it suffices for you to argue on rove to be a Zakin Mamre. And yet, if you don't have all the Dayanim sitting together, that halacha doesn't kick in. Why should that be? The hezber is because rubo ke'chulo can only exist if we're connected as one entire unit, as the Sanhedrin sitting together all together. I want to just close the shir tonight with one final question. If you remember last week, I have that on the sheets. The Radvaz was of the opinion that even though the Rambam held that the Medida is with what was the Radvaz's opinion? The Radvaz said in Perek Hey of Hilchos Sanhedrin, Arifas ha'egla b'chamisha, the actual Arifas ha'egla was with 5 dayanim. Said the Radvaz a chiddush gadol. V'afal gav dilgabi medidas ha'chola boy kol Sanhedrin gedola. He says the Rambam is very meduyik. The Rambam says the actual Arifa needs 5 dayanim, but how much does the measurement need? So the Radvaz was of the opinion, a chiddush nifla, that would be Sanhedrin Gedola. So if the Radvaz is right, so I have a kasha on the Gemara. The Gemara says what? It's a case where the whole Sanhedrin went out for a specific purpose. Says the Gemara, why would the Sanhedrin go out? It must be for a specific mitzvah. Arifa Sa'egla must be going according to that one Tana that holds what? Arifa Sa'egla is not only with 3 and 5 or 5, it's with all, according to the Radvaz. This is the Shita of Rabbi Shimon Rabbi Yehuda for the Medida as well. So the Gemara is against the Radvaz because the Gemara suggested that you only have Kol Sanhedrin within the opinion of Rabbi Lazar ben Yaakov. According to the Radvaz's approach within the Rambam, that paskin like Rabbi Yehuda, even Rabbi Yehuda has certain times that you have Kol Sanhedrin, and the Gemara is L'chora a raya against the Radvaz. Tzarechiyah. Okay. Shkoyach.